let's start with the first presentation. I stop sharing my screen and ask Heike to share hers, and the floor is yours, Heike.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christina, and all the others to having the opportunity to present some work from Germany that we did. And I'm starting my presentation now. I hope you can see it in a good quality. Christina?
Yes, yes, everything fine.
Very good. So I start. Yeah, my name is Heike Köckler, and I'm professor on place and health at University of Applied Science in the Department of Community Health. And I'm member of a working group on health promoting municipal and urban development. You don't have to read the names, and they won't tell you too much, because we are just a group of German folks from science and practice working on healthy urban development. And we like this, what we call transdisciplinary approach on discussing and doing research from practice and from science. So we are people from all over Germany. It has a little bit of focus on Berlin because it is the main body who is running it is located in Berlin, but we are all kinds of disciplines, from architecture, urban planning, public health, and from practice and from science. And from the very early beginning, there was a big deal of local level and of urban planning. And you will see it in the recommendations that Christina invited me to share with you today. The recommendations are usually only available in German. And when I was discussing with Christina, so you are the reason that it is now available in English, and I'm really glad to present it here. And these 5 theses or recommendations that we have are for a health promoting and sustainable urban development. This, from the very beginning and from the title, shows that we follow a very integrated approach, like it is needed and common in our days. You can find the whole paper in English online in the internet on a website, and I just want to focus on a few aspects. The first recommendation that we have something like a starting point of the argumentation is that we are facing a lot of societal transformation, and that this is a major challenge on the way towards a health promoting local policy. And we see different transformations that are happening, and I'm sure not only in Germany, not only in Europe, but for sure worldwide. So we have a lot of urbanization processes connected with migration, with national, intranational migration, but also worldwide migration and integration. This leads to very diverse populations, and so we have need different approaches in healthy urban development. And as one representation of diverse communities, I shared a photo with you of a group of community researchers that we are working with in the city of Bochum. And here we have people from very different countries of the world, and they are all living in Bochum, and they are doing joint research with students. And as community researchers, they have a very good access to people in the neighborhood. If you are interested in, I can share more about this in the later discussion. Beyond the urbanization and the diverse population aspects, we see a growing demand for housing in our cities. So for urban planners, it is very challenging to provide enough space for housing, with growing numbers of people living in cities, and even growing demands on how many square meters one person has. And this leads to a high pressure on the remaining green within cities. Furthermore, we have processes of digitalization that change a lot, and you should be aware, I forgot to mention it, we published the recommendations in March 2020. So we worked on them while not being aware of COVID-19, and we see for sure the digitalization effect is even stronger, especially, or not only in Germany, due to Corona and the lockdown and all the home aspects we have at the moment. Another important driver is the climate change that we are facing and that we have to take into account if we carry out any kind of health promoting local policies. The next thing is that we say if cities want to create health promoting living conditions, social justice, environmental protection and participation need to be the guiding principles in everything we do. So all words that we think are positive, but they are quite difficult to deal with. So what is really social justice within a city? Is it justice for all? Is it justice for in a libertarian approach for those who are very active and very good in economic reasons, or is it justice for the vulnerable population? So a lot of cities have to have this argumentation. If resources are scarce, where do we put them? We need for sure environmental protection. This is led by all the urban and environmental planners that we are in the group, that we think next to the social determinants of health, the environmental determinants of health are very, very important. And last but not least, participation needs to be a guiding principle. And we can reach this by the reduction of socio-spatial segregation that we face in our cities, and with following the idea of environmental justice, what is a certain concept of justice, taking the aspects of environment and social aspects into account. Therefore, I took a photo. This is not from Germany. This is from Philadelphia in the US, where we have much more work on neighborhoods and communities dealing with environmental justice. And Jerome is a person who is developing an environmental center in Overbrook, what is a city part of Philadelphia. And they are combining a lot of things that I think are very good for healthy urban development. So they plan a pharmacy, so a farm with plants that are good for health. They do a lot of community empowerment processes, and they really develop the neighborhood. So urban green is also important if we talk about environment and enabling and participation. And if you look at Overbrook Center, you can find some quite interesting information on this group, and you find several of them in the US, but also in Europe. But at this point, I wanted to make clear that we could also learn from other continents in this case. Here, a figure that is quite familiar to some of us, because within the YAHE Joint Action on Health Equity in Europe process, especially we in Germany, tried to adopt the place standard tool that was developed in Scotland. And I choose this as a picture to carry the third recommendation that we have on the need for integrated visions and strategies. We say that health promoting urban development requires such integrated visions, approaches, and strategies. And this is not easy because you have to learn to discuss and observe neighborhoods and places in an integrated manner. And what we really need for this are any kind of tools and structures to overcome the silo mentality that we often observe, but what is not easy to overcome. So we go absolutely in line with the health in all policies approach that WHO suggests, and see, for example, in the Place Standard tool, one opportunity to follow this. The Healthy Cities Network, what is also represented here today, we also see as a good approach to follow. To share with you one program that we have in Germany and that we apply, this comes also from the urban planning part, is a specific program on socially integration within cities. If you have certain neighborhoods that are on the one hand characterized by deprived population and also by a building stock that is losing quality and not so good environmental quality, you can apply for a lot of monies for urban renewal. And this has a very integrated approach, taking social aspects, built environment, architecture, environment, and more health aspects into account. So we have very clear programs that try to follow such an integrated approach, and we have to learn to use them together with different sectors within the municipality with different departments. The fourth point that we have is that we need infrastructure. Urban planners like to have things that are at a clear place in the city. So we love infrastructure planning. But infrastructure is not just building roads and houses. It is also to have social infrastructure, for sure, technical infrastructure, and green infrastructure. And you can combine it. Here I give an example of the city where I live in. Münster is a city in Germany, what is quite famous for being relatively not as good as in the Netherlands. I know that Utrecht is coming later, but we are quite fine on cycling. And this is the promenade, what is a ring road around the city, a ring infrastructure that is just for cycling, sports, and walking. You find no cars on this inner city circle, and this is a very good example for a green infrastructure that also has a social dimension because you can meet, it has a climate function, and so on and so on. And we need these infrastructures to have healthy environments, to take into account these environmental determinants of health. Furthermore, we have to make sure that basic services are provided. And in Germany, the municipalities play a quite big roles in what we call Daseinsvorsorge. So I translate it with provision of basic services. And we have some debate. I think 10, 15 years ago, I had a debate with a colleague if the provision of housing has to be guaranteed by the city. And he said, no, we can leave this to the market. Today, we know that this is not the fact, that we have more and more people facing the difficulty to live in the city where they want to live because we have the gentrification processes and things becoming very expensive to live in cities. And I think following whatever Corona and lockdown will bring us, this problem will get even more severe. So we need a constant discussion on what are basic services that are to be provided by the public, and are they provided by the local level. We also differ in Germany between mandatory things. So we have to care for that the waste is taken away, that we have schools and so on. But for example, the provision of a swimming pool, of a public accessible swimming pool, it's a big topic in Germany on health and physical activity. We used to have a lot of public swimming pools where the kids could go in the summer, even if it's hot. And now we see that due to economic reasons, a lot have been closed down, and some children are even not more able to swim and to train it very well. This is a good example what has to do with health, with physical activity, and with a decision on what is mandatory, what is voluntary, and what can a municipality afford to provide. No, I'm coming to our fifth recommendation. As I mentioned, these are recommendations not only on healthy urban development within Germany. We feel absolutely in line with the Sustainable Development Goals that I guess all of you are familiar with. And the SDGs are one aspect when we say that local health promotion can only be taken or can only be realized if you think globally in order to meet globalized conditions. And the SDGs are for sure one. The Global Healthy Cities Network is also an opportunity to work together. And we see lots of cities and municipalities becoming stronger, taking a strong role on climate protection and climate change due to the non-effectiveness of all the global agreements. So we find a lot of agreements that are done by cities. A thing especially that I would like to add, and this fifth point is the responsibility to pandemics that we were not aware of, and when we were developing these recommendations in 2019, so we were not aware of what would come. I guess lots of people have not been aware, and now we are, and we have a lot of discussion, especially on the aspect of health equity. What does this mean for our cities if we face pandemics, and if we to believe in what scientists say will not be the last one that we are facing? And I'm very glad that I can join a group from WHO on urban preparedness to pandemics. And it is very good to see that on the global level, we really have an integration in this working group. We are people from different countries, but it is absolutely clear that we have WHO, that we have UN Habitat, what is so the city program of the United Nations, and that we have also all the disaster people who are very good in using this Sendai framework, what is for disaster risk management. And there it is absolutely clear that we need a whole-of approach, a whole of government, a whole of society, and a whole of risk approach. And so I think we are very good from the global to the local level to learn on integrated strategies, to see the plurality and the challenges that we have in providing healthy cities, especially for vulnerable populations. So to have this focus that you have in the joint action as well. So these have been the 5 recommendations. I just put them on one slide together as well. It was just a little bit of a highlight, I guess. Or I don't know, maybe it's something brand new for you. I guess most of this you have heard, but we had lots of discussions on deciding what to put in, what to leave out, and how to structure it. I'm really glad that you listened to me and that I have the opportunity to discuss with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heike.
Yes, I thank Heike very much because she told a lot of things I was going to tell also. So I was quite glad she's going to do. Welcome to Utrecht. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Utrecht. Some of you have been at the presentation in February, so maybe there are some doubles, but I can't do anything about it because there are also some new people. Like Heike told, in our city, Utrecht, we also are growing within the next years. We have a population of 350,000 people, and we are growing to 450,000 in 20 years, which will be a lot for our city. We need 60,000 new homes within these 20 years. And our challenge was always, our strategic goal is to create healthy urban living city, an area, region. And our challenge is how to keep all these attractive, healthy city aspects while we are growing. So this is really, I think, at the heart of what Heike also is doing. And because we were working on healthy urban living already, we put that also as the main goal of our new spatial strategy. We just finished our spatial strategy for 2040, sorry. And there are a lot of elements in the strategy, and I will tell you about these elements. Could you give me the next sheet, please? Yes. Our strategy, one of the first things what we said is that we want to keep the quality of the city as it is, and it's a historical city. You won't see it in my sheets, but it's a very nice historical city, centrally located in the country, and we want to be and stay a city where the strategy of healthy urban living and health and quality stays, also within the development next years. We want to provide space for the growth, but we want to still retain our quality and our identity. And at the same time, for all the people coming to live in our city, we have to build affordable houses in a healthy green environment with easy access and healthcare nearby. In fact, it's like a summary of what Heike also told. And one of the aspects we are going to keep, one of the goals we have, we are creating more greenery and more water in our city. Both make us healthy and happy and contribute to a better place to live. Greenery and water also ensure that the local climate remains good even as the climate changes. And in our fast-growing city, it's particularly important that we strike the right balance between housing and nature. We just don't want to build. We want also that there's enough greenery nearby and that people have better access to nature inside and outside the city. This example, we will build all over the city, people walking through green areas from within the city to out the city where there's more nature. So one of our elements of our strategy is also connecting the city and the surrounding landscape by these kind of green bicycle and walking routes. Please, next sheet. Another element of our strategy for the next 20 years is that we want to create hubs. Everyone, because our city is growing and it's quite busy already in the center, everyone and everybody wants to be downtown. But if that's happening, it will be far too busy downtown. So we're going to create urban centers around the city. And we have also the goal that we want to be a 10-minute city. Everybody in a city has to be able to have facilities within 10 minutes from their housing. And all the facilities here are the basic facilities you need, like work, maybe not work, but culture, healthcare, sports, recreation ground, etc. We are creating that within this 10-minute city. And the next sheet, please. Very important is also that we have an excellent transport network. Heike told already that we are really a cycle city, like much Dutch cities. But also we have, at the moment, we are pronouncing that there are going to be too much cycles. So we want people having to walk. So we're also investing in walking ways. And within this 10-minute city, not everybody has to need to cycle. So we're going to prioritizing clean ways to travel that take up less space, such as walking, cycling, and public transport. And if we create extra space by this, we can use the space for other things like recreation. The next sheet is about another element of our strategy, that's sustainable energy. Our energy needs will also grow with the number of inhabitants in our city. And at the same time, we want to reduce our carbon dioxide emissions. To achieve these both goals, within creating our new cities, as you can see on the right picture, we are saving energy, generating more sustainable power. We make use of solar and wind power, geothermal energy, and residual heat. And you can see that we put that under the street level. We can put it on the roofs of buildings. We are creating more green, etc., etc. And the next sheet is about that we are making Utrecht an even more inclusive city. That's also what Heike told. In our city, we find it very important that everybody who lives in the city can be part of the city and get involved. So we don't want to create, that's what Heike told also, that housing is more, for people, not affordable anymore. That's really, really important for us, that we want to build affordable housing. And that everybody who lives and works in our city can cooperate with us and can work with us to make Utrecht even a better place to work and live. We are working together to create a healthy enjoyment city, a city where everybody is welcome and where everybody can join society. And with this strategy, we also want to contribute on the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the next sheet. The SDGs offer us an international language an opportunity to share knowledge and contribute to the shared global agenda. In this way, we can work together on innovative solutions to make our city greener, more livable and healthier for everyone. This is a very nice way to communicate internationally, and people accept that you're going to connect to one of these goals. So that works very well. At the end, I'm going to tell you a little bit about placemaking, which is not a topic today, but I give you some examples where we realize healthy urban living in our developments in the city and to create nice places. And one of the big examples is our new station area living lab, which is part of Climate Kick's Smart Sustainable District program, where we created a completely new city center area on the west side of our station. And it's a sustainable, healthy district it's completely energy neutral, climate proof and circular. And the next sheet is what we did. Sorry, this is the eastern side. The next sheet is what we do on the western side. This was formerly a motorway just right into the center from the 70s, where we were all focused on motorbikes and cars. And at the moment, it's completely refurbished into a circular and green street. And in the middle, there's a lot of space for pedestrians and cyclists. And on the next sheet, we go a little bit deeper onto street level. And you can see that things are happening there, which are all circular. There's art, there are places to sit. There's nice public space and green public space. There are restaurants. One of the restaurants can completely be rebuilt and reused, so it can completely disappear after 5 years. So we are working on this on the street level also. And then when you end up the street, you end up at the Yarber Square, which is the next sheet. It's a big square on the western side of the station area. This is still a place with a lot of concrete and empty space, but it was much worse before. At the end, you see the cycle parking garage under the steps, and in front you see the skate park, which we realized as being a way of placemaking in this area in summertime. And when there's no COVID, there were a lot of food and coffee trucks, and there are events on the right side of the square. And we're also developing green pathways and walking ways over this square. And new is that the tenants in the big buildings on the left are starting placemaking, so that's very nice. And the next sheet is about the Yarber Steps, which you see here in the back. You see it in the next sheet on the front. Yes, this was built mainly as steps, but you see there are different levels in the steps, and there's also a place to sit. And when you sit there, you can enjoy the sun, socializing, and people start performing spontaneously in front of these people sitting there. So it's placemaking, by people themselves. If you sit on the steps or the other way of the square, on the next sheet you see there's going to be a big development, because placemaking can also be realized through architecture and creating buildings. This building is called Wonderwoods. They started building it now, which is very practical during pandemic because it's in the middle of the city, so it's quiet now. But this is going to be a building with a vertical forest in it, multi-use, completely sustainable, and it's going to be an example of how we want to create healthy urban living in our city. And the last sheet is one with an example of how you can create a nice healthy urban living bus stops. They are quite well known by now, but it's a nice place to sit. It's nice for people to see that you can grow lovely bee-friendly flowers on top. And this whole little bus stop is made by sustainable materials, using sustainable energy. So this is also part of placemaking, making an attractive street by healthy things happening. Yeah, I can suppose we have a summary. I could send that to you from our strategic vision. And I want to thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Ank. And I think we can see many connections and overlaps between the recommendations from Heike and what you are doing in practice in Utrecht. So I think that fits wonderful together.